Hello everyone! For this yoga class, we're starting off in the middle of our mat in an easy seated pose. I'm choosing to light up some sage. Feel free to do the same thing, or any other scented substances you have that is appropriate, of course, or you don't have to light up anything at all. Just sitting nice and still in your easy seated pose. Whether or not you require props. So I'm just dousing myself in some sage and letting it fuse through the air just to get the good vibes going. So now setting aside your sage if you were working with one. Bringing both your elbows to your knees, just allowing your hands to rest gently. Sitting in the silence. Sitting upright, just sitting in stillness, mentally preparing ourselves. Now I'm returning my candle back to my bedside, but I want you to start reaching either one of your arms up and overhead, like I am now doing here. So left arm up and overhead, stretching out our left side. Switching out sides whenever you're ready, right arm up and overhead, stretching out our right side. And switching out sides as you go along, making sure that both your seat bones staying firmly on the mat. Don't let your either glutes feel tempted to lift up. Now on your right side, bringing your left arm around your right knee, gripping onto it, feel free to shift your right arm a little bit closer to behind you, so that we feel an additional satisfying stretch through our lower back on the left side. And now coming back through to center, switching out to the left side, wrapping your right hand around your left knee, encouraging a nice stretch throughout the small of our back on our right side, and feel free to shift your left arm a bit closer to behind you, just to keep yourself seated upright, to really lean over your knee. Coming back through to center again, raising our hands up and overhead, and leaning on forward, walking your hands out as far as you can in front of you, coming into a seated cross-legged forward fold. It's completely fine if you're still very much upright in your upper body, if you don't actually lean over that far. Just making sure that you are bending from your hips and not your lower back. Now coming back up gently, leaning back into your hands and windshield wiping your knees either side, feeling a nice warming opening in the hips. Maybe you might feel a release in the back, but the point is just to feel a nice amount of movement and opening in the hips. And now coming back through, bringing your feet together, knees wide, gripping onto your feet, or you can grip onto your ankles, sitting upright as much as you can, adding a lot of length into the spine, and then leaning forward, running theme from the hips, not the lower back, digging your elbows into your knees and seeing how far forward you can't come down. Again, it's not important how far forward you come if you can't get your chest or forehead to the mat. What matters is the sensations you feel in your hips, maybe as well as your inner thighs. Gently sitting back up and extending out your right leg if you're mirroring me, but if you're not mirroring me, your left leg. Bringing your right elbow, digging it into your right leg and your left arm up and overhead. As we dig our arm into our leg, we're also encouraging our chest to be nice and broad. And now switching our sides with your legs. So this time stretching out your left leg. Left arm digs in, right arm up and overhead. And again, as we dig our left arm into our leg, we keep our chest nice and broad. And now transitioning your way over to a tabletop, making any adjustments that you need to, posture or clothing wise. And from your tabletop, you're coming into a gentle cat-cow. As micro or as major movements as you like, just depending on how you're feeling, especially with the lower, middle to lower point of your spine. Now from here, in similar concept to a walking out the dog, you're staying in the tabletop, but you're going to walk out your tabletop extending one leg at a time, compressing about 2 to 3 seconds in each leg. Now from here, raising up your right arm, using the upper body weight to compress down onto your right shoulder. In addition, grip onto the front side of your mat with your left arm, just to help you stay stabilized and you don't slide forward. And for an extra stretch, stretch out your left leg, so we get a shoulder stretch, a spinal twist, and a left side hamstring and calf stretch. 3 stretches in one whole pose. Releasing your leg, coming back up with the upper body, switching out sides. Left arm up, underside you, compressing your upper body down onto your left shoulder, gripping onto the front side of your mat with your right hand, just to keep yourself stabilized. Stretching out your right leg, feeling a nice stretch throughout your right hamstring and calf. And now gently lower, raise through the upper body, lowering both your arms when you are ready, and coming down into a puppy pose. Gripping onto the front side of your mat just to keep yourself from sliding forward. Feel free to lean your forehead to the mat, but if you want an additional stretch, balance up on your chin. So this might probably be a nice gentle stretch for some, it might be very intense for others. Now raising up through your back, coming up onto your hands, and when you are ready, pressing up into a downward facing dog. From here, spinal rolls, extending out to plank, a gentle tilt of your back to downward dog, raising through your toes, rolling through to plank, pressing back, downward dog. Raising up and forward, plank, tilting your back gently, downward dog. Just enjoying a downward dog for a moment now. Now raising up your left leg, bending through your left knee, and coming into some single-legged circles. Just warming up our left side hip. Now from here, however you see fit, shifting your left foot forward into a sprinter's lunge. If you can't quite bring your hands to the mat, feel free to use props, books, blocks, yoga blocks, bolsters, cushions, etc. Otherwise, if you have no problem bringing your hands to the ground, allowing your hips to sink, feeling a nice satisfying stretch throughout your right hip flexor. Now shifting your weight back into a half split, making sure that your hip stays square, left hip back, right hip forward. Leaning over about as far as you can to your left leg, but it's not so important if you can't bring your chest to your shin or your knee. Optional to have a flexed foot. You can also just have your foot flat. And definitely bending from the hips as well, not the lower back. Try to keep your spine as straight as you can. Now from here, shifting your right knee forward just slightly, shifting your right calf muscle out of the way, coming onto your behind, sitting nicely on the ground, leaving your left leg sticking out straight, arms up and overhead, loop your hands over your left foot, and see how far you can lean over onto your left leg. But again, it's not important how far down you can come or can't come. If you are upright in the body, that is completely fine. It's more of a matter of feeling the stretching sensations, not so much of how far you can bend over. But if you are able to come down for a fair way, making sure that it's from your hips and not your lower back. And now rotating your upper half, digging your left elbow into your left leg. That'll help encourage our chest to be nice and broad, and seeing if you can't reach your toes with your right hand. Now gently coming back up, shifting forward back into your low sprinter's lunge. Just holding for 1 moment. And then if you have the world of trouble with opposite hand, opposite foot right off the bat, grab same hand, same foot, but then pass your foot off to your opposite hand, and then sink into this posture, twisted lunge variation. So in this posture, we are feeling an even more intense stretch throughout our right hip flexor as well as our upper thigh muscle. Then releasing your foot and extending out into a pyramid pose. Making sure to stay raised in the right heel and seeing how far you can lean over your left leg. Now stepping back into a downward facing dog, holding just for a moment. And then raising up your right leg, bending through the right knee, circling out the leg, warming up our right side hip. And then however you see fit, shifting your right leg forward, coming into a low lunge. So once again, with the options of using props to bring the ground up to you if your hands can't reach, but of course if your hands have no trouble reaching the ground, sinking low with the hips and feeling a really nice satisfying stretch in our left side hip flexor. And now shifting your way back into your half split, making sure those hips stay square, right hip back, left hip forward, bending over from the hips, not the lower back. I don't know, broken record. Optional to have your right foot flexed, and seeing how far you can come down with your upper body, but it's completely fine if your upper body is still upright. And now shifting your left knee forward just a fraction, shifting your calf muscle out of the way a little bit, sitting down, leaving your right leg straight, arms up and overhead, looping your hands over your right foot, and seeing how far you can bring yourself over your right leg. And now only shifting around your upper body, digging your right elbow into your right leg, encouraging a broad chest, and seeing if your left hand can't reach for your right toes. And now gently coming back up, shifting it back into your low sprinter lunge. Just settling into a sprinter lunge for a moment, then grabbing opposite hand, opposite foot. If you don't have the word or trouble on the opposite side like I don't, I can pretty much get my foot on this side right off the bat, but of course again if you do have trouble, same hand, same foot first, pass your foot off into the opposite hand, and then gently settling into this posture, feeling a really nice stretch through our left hip flexor and upper thigh muscle. Making sure to keep your elbow away from your body, and releasing your foot and extending out into your pyramid pose, keeping your left heel nice and raised, and seeing how far you can't come over your right leg, but it's also still completely fine if your upper body is upright. Now stepping back to a downward facing dog, holding a downward dog just for a moment, and then slowly start to walk forward 4 to 6 steps until you reach the front of your mat. Then raising about halfway, and folding over forward again. Feel free to have a gentle bend in the knees if extended legs just isn't happening and it's too soon and you're still a bit too tight even in this posture. But if you can absolutely manage it, straighten out your legs. Now grabbing onto opposite elbows and gently swaying side to side, encouraging a more active stretch in the hamstring and calves. And then ever so slightly with the lower back, wag the tail so to speak, just to feel a bit more of a stretch in the side points of your lower back, closest to where your glutes are. Now from here, your right arm reaches up, your left knee bends, left hand is down, right leg is straight, and then switching out for the opposite. Left arm up, right knee bends, left leg straight, right arm down. And per your own breathing pattern, per your own pace, switching out sides whenever you're ready. So a bit of a spinal twist stretch again, while we're also isolating each leg at a time to stretch out. As you've noticed, we're definitely stretching out our hamstring and calves from multiple different directions. And now rising up halfway, arms by your side, refold over. Doing this exact position a few times over. Raising up halfway, arms by your side, and lower back down. Raising up, arms by your side. This is a really good gentle strengthening element for our back. Raising up, coming back down. Raising up, hands by your side, lower back down. Raising all the way up, this time to a Tadasana, mountain pose. Arms up and overhead, hands to a prayer, or just palms together. Now raising your hands up and coming to a right side cactus, reaching back up, left side cactus. So as we rear our elbows backwards, we strengthen up our lats, we also stretch out our shoulders. And come to your left, reach up, come to your right, reach up. Now this time, bring your left or right knee up to you, to your chest, nice and slowly, because we really want to relish in the stretch that we feel as soon as our knee is closest to our chest. So a bit of a balancing strategy challenge here, but also bonus points for the stretch that we feel. Now holding onto your right leg, bringing your right arm or hand to the small of your back and coming into a modified, gentle, standing iron cross. From here, gently and as safely as you can, stepping back to your warrior two. Nice bend in the left knee, arms about shoulder height, core is tight. Then bringing left elbow, left knee, right arm up overhead, closest to your ear. And being sure to keep your shoulder away from your ear, your left shoulder that is. Shifting over to your peaceful warrior, right arm anywhere along your right leg, left arm up overhead, nearby your ear. Shifting back to your side lunge, left elbow, left knee, right arm up overhead. And this time bring it around, middle forward fold. The wider your feet, the easier the posture. The more narrow the feet, the less your head will have the chance of reaching the ground. So also we're adding a shoulder stretch in, so clasping your hands and letting your hands fall up and over. Keeping a subtle bend in the knee if it helps. Releasing your hands. Shifting your left foot outwards, bending into your left knee, coming into Skandasana, your right leg is straight, and being absolutely sure to point up your right toes to the sky or ceiling. And if you're pretty confident with the balance, see if you can't bring your hands to a prayer or just palms together. But of course, if you do feel safer with your palms to the ground, that is completely fine. Shifting back to a middle forward fold. And see if you can't reach your hands to the back of your mat. Now coming back up, shifting your right foot outwards, bending into your right knee, leaving your left leg straightened out. Work on getting your left toes up to the sky or ceiling. And again, if you're pretty comfortable and confident with the balance, bringing palms to a prayer or just palms together. But of course, if you're a bit too wobbly, then by all means keep your hands compressed to the mat, it's completely fine. But mostly work on getting those flexed toes up to the sky or ceiling. Now shifting back up to a standing, coming to a goddess squat, but we won't be doing a squat however. Hands on knees and dipping one shoulder at a time, feeling a nice stretch throughout inner thighs. It's funny I say goddess squat, the lighting behind me gets brighter. And standing all the way up now and returning back to the front of our mat, to our Tadasana. So no arm motions just yet, we're just embellishing in standing still. Now returning back to those very slow knee to chest, starting off with your left knee if you like, and then switching out knees. Now keeping a grip on your left leg, bringing your left arm to the small of your back, coming into a modified easy standing iron cross. And then gently and safely as you can, stepping your left foot back, coming into Warrior 2. A nice bend in the right knee, arms about shoulder height, core is engaged. Now from here, right elbow, right knee, left arm up and overhead by your ear. Making sure to keep the right shoulder away from the right ear. Now shifting to your peaceful warrior. Left hand anywhere along your left leg, right arm up and overhead by your ear. Coming back to your side lunge. Right elbow, right knee, left arm up and overhead. Now bringing it around into a forward fold. So again, the wider your feet, the easier it is to get your head or elbows or any part of your upper body closer to the mat. But seeing if you can't bring your hands to the other side of your mat. The more narrow your feet, the harder it is for your upper body to reach the mat apart from your hands. And now coming back up to a standing, back up to the front of your mat, arms up and overhead, hands to a prayer, and as safely and carefully as you can. Quite an intense back bend, and then swan dive it forward to a forward fold, stepping back to a downward facing dog, plank, chaturanga, upward facing dog. Now at this point we're coming into a right side pigeon, but my camera cut off. So coming into your right side pigeon, making sure there's enough length and extension through your back and leaning forward. Maybe seeing if you can bring elbows to the ground. If you definitely require props underneath your right hip, by all means. Or maybe you want to lean your elbows on a pillow or something, or you're completely comfortable down here. Now reaching back up, coming up into your low lunge again. But we're going to clasp hands behind us, stretching out our shoulders, opening up our chest, and seeing how far you can't lean your head back. Quite the nice heart opening posture, as well as feeling another nice stretch in our hip flexor. Now coming into a twisted lunge, left elbow, right knee, palms together. An amazing digestive stimulative posture. It's great for bringing out old blood cells and replenishing for new ones. Bringing your hands to the mat, extending through your back knee, stepping back to a downward dog, holding briefly, plank, chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog, and this time we come to our left side pigeon. Bringing your left leg forward, making sure that your right leg is in the middle of your mat, and it's not so important that your foot is parallel to the mat. That could be an end goal for you, but the purpose is to feel a nice release through our left or right glute and hip flexor, just depending on which side you're on. If you're a little bit more advanced in pigeon pose and you can bring your foot parallel to the mat, then by all means. But if you're more comfortable in a posture like this, having your foot closest to your hips, then that's completely fine and perfectly acceptable. So we're going to be holding this posture for quite a while. We held it for a while on the other side, but my camera cut short. Now raising your way back up, shifting around, coming back into a left side low sprinter lunge. And we're going to revisit that shoulder stretch as well. Hands clasped behind your back, allowing your head to tilt back, just for a nice heart opening posture. And feeling yet another stretch in our right hip flexor. Releasing the hands, bringing your right elbow to your left knee, palms together, in your opposite side low twisted lunge. So we're also replenishing newer blood cells on this side of our body, as well as stimulating for a better digestive system. And releasing your hands, stepping back to a plank, just holding our plank for a moment, just for one breath, and then releasing the knees, shifting back into a child's pose, wide knees, narrow knees, engaged arms, relaxed arms, completely up to you. We're going to hold this child's pose for a couple of moments to really relish in this posture. Now on your next breath, rolling your weight up and shifting your weight around onto your back. Now you pick which side you'd like to start off with. We're coming into more advanced spinal twist, so straighten one leg and pulling across your other leg. And now switching out sides. So straightening out your other leg that was bent and bringing across your other leg that was straight. It's completely normal to have a lot of cracks go off in your back. And it's also just as normal if one arm reaches the ground compared to the other. If of course bringing your bent knee to the ground is a bit too much, feel free to add some props under your knee. But otherwise, if you can completely manage with just your body weight. And now coming back into the middle, bringing your knees to your chest, clasping your hands around your knees into a ball posture, and feel free to rock side to side gently, massaging your lumbar spine. And now releasing your legs, slowly but surely extending out into your final resting posture, Shavasana corpse pose. So feet about hip width, arms relatively flopped outside your mat, just completely releasing and surrendering to this posture. It's often described as the most hardest yoga posture. So just breathing at your own natural rhythm. Every inch of you is completely relaxed. And now beginning to wiggle fingers and toes. Taking in a few deep breaths, just to reawaken and re-stimulate yourself nice and gently. Rolling over into your fetal position. Then at your own pace, coming up to a seated in an easy seated position, whichever easy seated position works for you. Bringing your elbows to your knees, and I always like to bring my hands to an Anay Mudra, which is basically the A-OK hand gesture. Sitting up nice and tall, deep breaths in, raising your hands up above your head, all the positive energy above yourself, bringing it on down to yourself, and thanking yourself so much for being on your mats. Thank you all so much for watching and or following. I do appreciate it either way, and I shall hope to see you in my future videos. Namaste.